Welcome to another tremendous adventure from the Masters, A Personal Journey to Success. I'm Kitty Victor, your host, and I can tell you that no one human being has given more dignity and self-esteem to our profession. This is a special guest. The knowledge and inspiration that he shares has changed forever the business of beauty. Here is a master's master and a great friend, Douglas A. Cox.
Well, I have a confession to make. I'm not a hairdresser. I'm a client. I can't teach you to cut hair or do color. I can't give you a perm or do a French braid. I'm not a cosmetologist. I'm a cowboy. So why should you listen to me? Is it because as a client I am the lifeblood of your salon? Maybe it's because I paid for the mirror in which you work. Is it because I make the payments on the furnishings that fill your salon? Or the knowledge that if the rent will be paid this month, I will have paid my share? I think that all of these and 1,000 more client-centered truths would be reason enough to share these moments with me. But I have chosen to speak to you now for a very different reason. It's because I believe in you. I believe in who you are. I believe in what you have chosen to do with your life, and I believe that a more prosperous and beautiful world is yours for the earning. I am honored to be chosen as a master, but I want you to listen to these ideas not because of something that I might have done, but because of what you can do for the world of tomorrow with the gift that you hold in your hands. The spirit of success is really about what you want, where you want to be, how you want to feel, and what comes next in your life. Perhaps most importantly, it is about how you will come to fulfill these things. You design hair for your clients successfully every day. Now it's time for you to design a life that brings you the abundance and fulfillment that you deserve. You are obviously motivated, or you wouldn't be investing your time and money in this tape series. Now it's time to inspire the master that sleeps within you. It is time to unleash the spirit of success in your own life. Then comes the familiar question. Why are so many of us searching for this information? How can it be that I, who have studied so hard and worked so long, have not found this so-called secret of complete success? My late hero, Earl Nightingale, pointed out that these laws of success were always available to everyone, and even though many listened, only a few of us really heard them. That's why he called them secrets. What is strange, he said, is that once they are heard, only the masters act on what they hear. Now I have to ask you, are you truly ready? Could this be your time? Do you live your life excited? Think about my question because it is the wellspring of your success. True excitement is a magnet that draws good people and good things to those who possess it. If you dream of an appointment book filled with clients, here lies the answer. If your wish is for increased income with which to pay off bills or build your financial security, the answer is here. If you long for more control of your life, more friends, more love, more understanding, and more peace of mind, it all begins here. By finding your excitement once again, you are finding the key to the gateway of the master's path. In the film, City Slickers, Billy Crystal flies home from his cowboy adventure to be met by his wife and kids. At the airport, he hugs his wife, points to his smile, and says, "Hey, look what I found. It was in Colorado, always the last place you look." Where do you look for your excitement these days? Do you get excited when you see the master's envelope with its tape in your mail? Do you still get excited when you step out the door of your home to head for the salon? Are you just as excited to return home at the end of the day? If not, you have allowed the dream pirates to take away your greatest power. It may have happened over a long period of time, or it may be some recent event that you blame for your lack of enthusiasm. One way or the other, you've got to find that light for your lighthouse and get that baby cooking again. The other day, as I was swimming, I saw a boy about 5 years old in the shallow end of the pool, trying desperately to learn how to keep his little body on top of the water. All afternoon he tried over and over again to get his feet off the bottom and glide safely back to the stairs. You and I call it swimming. He came closer and closer, and finally his efforts were rewarded. He lifted his body to the surface and dog-paddled the 3 feet to the edge. Well, I can tell you, his excitement was something wonderful to see. He threw his little arms into the air as if to say, "Touchdown!" and then he yelled, "I did it! I did it!" Now, there were a couple of children not much older than he was, and they were playing a few feet away, just trying their darndest to ignore this little nuisance. Finally, they could ignore him no more, and the little girl asked, "Did what?" "I swammed," he said. "I swammed." She got the most disgusted look on her face and said, "So what?" And then she added, as cruelly as she could, "I can do that." Well, I watched that little guy's face fall, and I knew that he was crushed. Then, very slowly, he looked up beaming and said, "Yeah, but I never swam before. It's my first time." He turned around, flipped his little butt in her face, and paddled off to continue his pursuit of the Olympics. Here was a kid who would not let anyone take away the excitement of his trials, nor the glory of his small success. I think too many of us let the world around us dictate the level of our enthusiasm. In a world that seems so violent and uncaring, we've begun to believe that thrills are to be seen and heard but not experienced. What we have forgotten is that real excitement can't be rented or bought. It's not going to arrive on a United parcel truck or fall into our lap off the big screen, but it springs forth from within us in the little ways we stay in love with life and the path that we have chosen. I've never been satisfied with virtual reality. Only the real thing turns me on. When did you fall in love with the beauty business? Where were you standing? How did you feel? Who was your inspiration? Think about it for a moment. If you were asked to retell the story of that moment, that you decided to cut hair or do nails, care for people's skin or answer the phone, would your story inspire others? Are you touched by the memory of it? If not, how can you hope to be inspired and excited about this one day? This one day that lived enthusiastically would be your first step on the pathway to a brand new kind of success. Go back to the beginning as I do. Back to the moment that you got that feeling. And as Barry Manilow says, try to get that feeling again. Once you find that spark, that memory, build on it. Add to it. Remember the many moments until you have rekindled a new fire for the old promise. One wonderful way of keeping the fire, as Kenny Loggins calls it, is to take time to communicate your thanks to the masters, both past and present, who have inspired you. Write and say, "Thanks for the wisdom, thanks for the gift, thanks for the vision." At least once a year I write to the barber who introduced me to this beautiful world of yours, and I say, "Thank you, Dr. Ron DeSalvo, for your friendship and your patience. Thanks for helping me see the power and the possibilities in this profession, and thanks for the precious treasure you have placed in my hands." It is said that a great soldier knows what he or she is fighting for and loves what he knows. I sure do. Do you? Have you ever met someone who is cynical? You know what I mean. No matter how well things are going, they're sure that something is going to go wrong. I'm sure you have friends and associates like that. They seem to be grasping, as if the world owes them something, and then complaining when they don't get what they think they deserve. By contrast, the masters are exactly the opposite. They know, as the old joke goes, that there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. Beginning this moment, I want you to give up your doubting nature and let yourself feel lucky. Now, don't just try to feel lucky. Do it. Instead of worrying about what's going to go wrong, begin to watch for things to go right. Don't put any time limits on it. Just get excited and start feeling lucky. Once when I was in Phoenix, Arizona, enjoying a picnic with one of my client companies, a young man who was an employee and I were throwing a baseball back and forth. Throughout the hot desert day, I had noticed that he was watching me. He finally said, "I saw you today. You seem to be having fun with everyone and every situation that came along. Is that for real?" And then he added, "Have you been in a good mood like this all of your life?" And I answered, "Not yet." We had a pretty good laugh about that, and then he asked me, "Don't you ever have bad times?" I thought for a moment. because I wanted to give him a sure enough true answer, and then I said very definitely, no. His immediate response was, "Come on, man, get real. Everybody has bad times. You've had a couple of tragedies in your life." My answer stopped him cold. "What you say is true. I have had some terrifying events in my life, but I chose to experience those times in ways that built my life rather than letting them tear it down. The truth is, there are no bad times, only good times and learning times. It doesn't mean that I don't get my feelings hurt or feel the losses that everyone else feels. It simply means that we are here on earth in this life to learn from every experience. No excuses. Whatever has happened before in your life is no reason to be any less than all you can be today. I love it when the Eagles are out on tour singing my lecture for me. Get over it, they say. Boy, is it true. If you don't get over it, you are never going to get on with it. And the sad part is that a lot of folks aren't going to do that until hell freezes over. Your history either becomes an anchor or rocket fuel. The choice is yours. And whatever adventure lies ahead for you in this miraculous world will depend a great deal on the baggage you carry and the speed you can travel. There is no success or failure, only a great experiment called life. Have you ever noticed that some people eat because there is little excitement in their lives, and others pay little attention to food because it is merely the fuel they use to get them on to what is really exciting in their lives? Do you have that hunger and thirst inside that food and drink just don't seem to satisfy? I'm talking about a craving for new information, a quest for new ways of doing things and new ways to get there. If you do, then you feel the way a true master feels. It's like saying, now that I know, I realize how much I don't know, and I know how much I want to know. We're talking about the absence of stubbornness. The late Jim Henson was a master of presenting us with a picture of ourselves, warts and all. No matter how much stuff Kermit and his friends tried to tell Miss Piggy, she always answered, "I know that." No single one of us can ever know as much as all of us. So begin to stop and look and listen. Next, take responsibility for the direction of your knowledge gathering. I always ask my audiences at the many beauty shows that I get to do, what would you like me to talk about today? I want to know what they're thinking about, and I'm always astounded to note that aside from the shy ones who wouldn't talk if they were being tortured, the others often stare blankly back at me or respond meekly, "Anything, sir." Masters know why they have chosen this class. They know what they hope to gain by being here. They bring their own paper and pen and sit in the front row. In my work with the Trump Organization, the hotel and casino properties hired me to do a series of seminars for them. I noticed that more than once Mr. Trump himself sat up front and took notes. Now I know that he has an incredible memory, and you and I both know that the Donald has an incredible bank account. Once in the elevator of the Trump Castle, I asked him why, with so much success and wealth, did he still sit up front and take notes. His reply? "How do you think I got it? He's still hungry." In listening to these tapes in this personal journey series with you, I find that I know most of the speakers, and of those that I do not, I know something about each of them. So I plan my listening to learn about the accomplishments I most admire, and I listen for the knowledge I most desire. At the conclusion of every one of my seminars and classes, someone in the audience invariably says to me, "That was just wonderful. I wish so-and-so would have been here. He really needed this." What is his excuse? It's always the same. "I've been to those things. I don't need that stuff." The truth is, he is terrified of the new world of information and change that shines so brightly just beyond his wall. Why, after years of success, do the masters come back? They are hungry, and they attend classes with the utmost respect for the artist on stage, knowing that one good new idea is worth a fortune in the hands of a master. Have you ever considered the difference between intelligence and wisdom? Every master has. Once when I was in the Amway Hotel in Grand Rapids, Michigan, visiting with about 2,500 great hairdressers, I looked out of my 17th floor window and down to the broad green river below. I noticed two boys fishing along the bank farthest from me. My performance not being for a couple of hours, I decided to mosey on down and watch these two in action. When I reached the trees above their riverbank, I realized that I had a perfect vantage point from which to observe without being observed. The lads were no more than 10 years of age, but they were light years apart in attitude. One paced impatiently up and down the bank, flailing his line out into the water, and then jerking it back. On its return, more often than not, the lure would snag on a rock or a submerged log, and this poor chap would go ballistic. When the moss that grows in profusion in that warm summer water would come back on his hook, he would start cussing and hollering and trying to snatch it off. More than once in this process, he impaled his own thumb on the hook that he intended for the fish. It was obvious the world and everything in it was his enemy. I could see that he had to catch a fish. The other young fellow was clearly from a lower income bracket. He had none of the fancy tackle or boxes or lures that the stranger next to him had. He had only a pole with a small reel and a string on there, and one old hand-carved plug tied to his line. He would stand and gaze out across the shimmering green river as if looking for the magic spot. Then he would wind up and cast his antique lure out into the river. I had no way of knowing if he hit the magic spot, but I assumed so because he would then sit down on the bank and wait for as long as 15 minutes before he would even try to retrieve his line. During this time out, he would watch the ducks, listen to the birds sing, and trace the sun's shadow patterns in the sand with his toes. When I finally ran out of time and had to return to the wonderful world of beauty shows, Mr. Frantic had gotten so mad at everything around him that he had packed up his fancy gear and stormed off toward home without a fish. Tom Sawyer, on the other hand, was just making a last mighty cast. He wound up and let her fly. Out across the water in a beautiful arc flew his antique fishing lure. His line stopped, and the lure just kept right on going. He watched until it disappeared into the river, and then, perhaps pleased with his strength, he took his old pole and headed down the bank of the river, whistling. He didn't need a fish. In this brave new world, there are those who are smart and those who are wise. The smart have intelligence, that is, the things that they know. The wise have knowledge too, but they use what they know to savor the moment and to improve the quality of life around them. One boy went out to go fishing. The other set out to catch a fish. Only one of them could treasure every moment. The other is still waiting for a fish. You know, your true success and power lie not so much in what you think, but in what you come to believe. Thoughts have a way of drifting in and out of our minds, but beliefs tend to hang around and shape our very existence. The beauty business must not be just what you do, it must become what you are. In the last 10 years, I've heard one question more and more frequently in all audiences. In a world gone mad, how can I find my centering place? In America, I've met thousands of workers who have discovered that the 21st century world has gone right past them. They have come to believe that all they have learned and everything they know doesn't really matter much anymore. And they are frightened. They have lost their balance, and they say, I'm trying to get focused again. Let me tell you a story about narrowing your vision, and then I will give you a bullseye plan for centering your life as a master. On a very dark fall night in the high desert of New Mexico, I went for a walk with a Native American medicine man. As we left the brightness of his small dwelling, we were quickly surrounded by the night. As we walked out into the desert, I began to lose visual contact with the artwork around me. I wasn't afraid, for I'd long since learned from the Indians to walk on the earth in a way that showed my respect. And I knew that because of that I would not harm any creature, and no critter would harm me. But not being able to look at the beauty that surrounded me, I reverted to my scoutmaster training and flipped on my trusty flashlight. The moment the light came on, I could hear my companion trying courteously to stifle his laughter. So I said, "All right, what's so funny?" He laughed out loud, and then he said, "You have given yourself a single beam, my friend, with which to see brightly a very small part of an incredibly huge and wondrous world." And then his voice changed, and he said, "Turn it off, Be still for a moment, and we shall see by the light of 1,000,000 stars all of creation." His counsel was wise. Once I doused the flashlight, the world we wandered through together came to life in all of my senses. I could not only see the smallest detail, but I could hear the nighthawks on the wind above me. I became aware of the smell of rain on the sage in the distance, and at last I could taste the dust rising from our footsteps, and I could touch the spirit song that surrounded us. The world is too fast and too complex today for us to try to focus ourselves. It doesn't mean that we don't pay attention. We pay better attention than ever before. It simply means that the moment we get into one aspect of our living, the rest of the universe goes off without us. It's time to turn off the flashlight. Stop looking so hard and start seeing our place and our power already at the center of things. This moment, as life is today, our goals and dreams must reach out to the 4 directions: physical, financial, emotional, and spiritual, each helping to balance the whole of our journey toward achievement. As you are listening right now, you might hear these words and say, "That's right, I've got to lose this weight," or "Boy, do I need some money to pay off these credit cards," or "Ah, yes, I'm on a spiritual quest right now." We are either trying to get in touch with our feelings or get control of them. Some men are trying to hug their kids for the first time, and many women are learning to deal with a new and frightening freedom. So where is the bullseye? Up until now, I have spoken to you as a partner and a friend in the beauty industry. Now I want to turn the chair around and speak to you face to face as a client. What I am about to tell you, and what you choose to do with this knowledge, will determine the power and confidence with which you fulfill the promise of your calling. As a professional, you must promise yourself to be healthier tomorrow than you are today. On the morning that I go forth to read for the part in a new movie, I will stop by to see you. My beard and my hair must be just exactly right. On that day, I do not want to find out that when I arrive for my appointment, you are at home with a cold. Nor do I want you standing over me with a runny nose and a cough. I once saw a hairstylist on stage sneeze on her model in the chair. I thought that it was an interesting delivery system for hairspray, but not one that would achieve wide acceptance. Good health is beauty, and whatever you must do to maintain it is a part of your responsibility on the Master's path. Take a deep breath now. Fill your lungs with fresh oxygen. Bring life into your body. Breathe out that which has served its purpose, and be aware of what it is you are doing. We are either living or dying a little more each day. Choose wisely. And then walk a little further each day. You can join a gym, run, lift weights, swim. All of these things are helpful. But to breathe deeply and walk far is to ensure your overall physical well-being. For many people, being sick is just an excuse to avoid doing something they don't want to do. Have you ever heard of burnout? And for all of us, the least diagnosed and most dangerous sickness of all is our prejudice against our own bodies. Never quite good enough. Never quite pretty enough, they said. Never quite thin enough, she thought. As a professional, you must either give up your disgust for your own body or give up your power in this business. You cannot have both, and you cannot share with others that which you do not possess. If you think of yourself as anything less than beautiful, you have nothing to sell me. Many years ago, as a child, in the face of ridicule for a dear friend of mine, I decided that there was no such thing as ugly or fat. I came to the conclusion that you are either beautiful or you are dead. The joy in this is that the choice is always yours. Don't let someone else make it for you. Breathe deep. Walk with pride in what you have chosen to do with your life, and acknowledge your beauty now and forever. Next, as a stylist, promise yourself to be financially independent. I may have only 45 minutes with you in your styling chair before I have to catch a plane or step out on stage in front of 1,000 people. During our time together, I want to know that I have your complete attention. You cannot be somewhere else in your mind, going over your bank balance or dreaming of what you will do when you win the lottery. You are richer every time you serve a client perfectly. Your wealth grows out of the quality of your client's experience. Here is the simple secret to financial confidence and wealth building. Take one of your hard-earned dollars, a $1 bill, and tape it to your bathroom mirror at home. Then each day, morning and night, look at that bill and ask yourself, what can I do with that $1 that will make it work for me instead of my working so hard for it? Figure it out. Make a decision and invest that $1. Day by day, paycheck by paycheck, the more dollars you can get producing for you, the more financial independence and personal confidence you will have to share with each of your clients, and that includes me. Wealth is not having $1 million. It is knowing what to do with $1. In this insensitive world, promise yourself to become more aware of your feelings and their effects on your success. As a true professional, you already know that your attitude, your mood, greatly affects the people who share your life, not to mention your clientele. Since every day is not going to bring sunshine, you must develop a way of seeing through the clouds. I'm not talking about pretending to be in a good mood, but instead finding enough sweetness and inspiration in the little treasures of life to make this another great day. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as a client, I look to you for inspiration both for my hair and for my heart. Terrible things do happen to wonderful people, but if you have been there faithfully for me, I will certainly be there with you when something goes wrong. Nobody likes a complainer. Make a list of the many blessings in your life. Keep it in your wallet or purse, and when one of those days comes along, take it out and read it, and add one more blessing to the list. In doing this, every day, with all of its trials and challenges, becomes a miracle. Good health is not the absence of disease. It is the presence of joy in your life. Ray Charles once told me that your spirit lights up a room after you're gone. Promise yourself then to awaken the spirit that lies sleeping within you. Each of us is given a touch of spirit at the moment of our birth. The Indians call it your medicine. It is clear to me now, after meeting hundreds throughout this world, that most of us neglect that seed of spirit. There are even some who deny its existence in them. And then there are those, a handful, who nurture and magnify that drop until it becomes an irresistible force that we feel instantly. Barbra Streisand's voice when she sings The Luckiest People in the World. Tom Hanks when he says, My mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. Joe Montana when he throws another touchdown. And Suzanne Chadwick when she braids a waterfall. All of these we remember because their contribution lights up our lives even after they are gone. You know what I'm talking about, because that spirit place inside you calls out when you hear me say these things. I'm here, the voice says. I'm ready. What do you want me to do, Master? In whatever you and your family have come to believe, you must recognize the spirit within you and let it shine. There is no one who touches this lonely world the way that you do. You return the smile to a lonely face. You bring to life beauty once neglected and forsaken. You release the grace and loveliness once held captive in a broken heart. You hold a miracle in your hands.
Masters, A Personal Journey to Success, is so excited to be sitting here with Bruno Mascolo, President, CEO, Tony & Guy, USA, and TG Linea. Welcome, Bruno.
Hi, how you doing, Kitty?
I'm doing really well. I have to tell you, I remember when your family first hit the United States, you were the buzz of the beauty industry, and you still are the buzz of the beauty industry. So I'm really, I'm humbled to be in your presence, and thank you so much for being part of Masters.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
Tell us how all this came about. I mean, you're like the American dream. You really are.
Well, I think that our first opportunity to come to America was when we were invited by Sebastian, Anthony, and I to come and do some shows. And at that particular time, we had a conception of America being very big and almost violent, people with guns and stuff. And when we did come over, we found some of the most wonderful people, and the atmosphere and the way we were received that made us feel so much at home that Anthony and I fell in love with it. And when we went back to London, I convinced Tony Guy that maybe we should expand towards coming towards America.
Can you explain to our listening audience a little bit about the family history and the brothers, and how are all of you related?
Well, my father started a business. He and my mother were hairdressers, and we just sort of fell into the footsteps of hairdressing. My father, Francesco Mascolo, and my mother started it, and then Tony and Guy. But Tony's my oldest brother, and his name's not really Tony. His name is Giuseppe. But it didn't really fit Giuseppe and Guy, so he changed his name to Tony. The fact of it is then Anthony came in, whose real name was Anthony, which obviously, as he came in, he didn't want to change his name.
So you really grew up in London in the hairdressing business, but your path originally was a little different, wasn't it?
Yes. I was born in Italy, and my school was very close to my father's salon, and I was definitely a daddy's boy, and as soon as I finished work, I'd go to the salon and hang out with my father. And I used to spend a lot of time in the salon, and in fact, he used to take me to the coffee bars, because in those times they used to do sets and put people under the dryer, and while they were drying, he would go out there and have a cigarette and a coffee, which was another couple of doors away. And I learned to do this trick where I could do the splits with my hands behind my back and pick up a coin with my mouth. Can't do it today, but... And it became something that he was proud of, and we'd go to the coffee bar and he'd show all his friends how I could do this. And then everybody would either buy me ice creams or chocolates. It was such wonderful, positive attention, which I kind of, liked a lot. But when we emigrated to England, it turned to be a little different. And there, not being able to speak the language, being a different culture, slightly different from the Anglo-Saxons, and kids sometimes can be very cruel. When I was at school, it was like a different type of attention. It was more of a negative because I was different and I couldn't speak the language. And at that point, rather than indulge in that attention that I was indulging in Italy, I wanted just to blend in, and kind of disappear with everybody else. So I think what happened to me, in looking back in later life, because the want was so strong of being blending in and not being pointed out because it was a negative attention at that point, was that I subconsciously programmed my subconscious mind to do that. And it almost made me like an average type of person, because if you want to blend in and you want to blend in with the mess, it's sort of, you become average. So in later life, when I looked at that, I saw the real power of how you could program your subconscious, how you could impact that so that it can become true, which in later life made me believe that this is the way that you must believe in yourself. If you want something bad enough and you program yourself to be able to do it, you can do it. And you can create self-esteem and confidence that you can achieve that. So it kind of validated for me that, yeah, you can be and you can want and you can achieve what you want if you really believe strong enough in it and you program yourself for it. Then the other lesson that I learned was communication and sharing your feelings and articulating a point. Because if you have a goal or a vision or an idea and you don't communicate it right, you don't enroll everybody working with you to help you get there. But this was validated by something else, which was maybe a very hard price to pay. to really validate communication for me, how important it was, and sharing it and becoming a part of a team became something that we believe in tremendously today. And the way that that was validated for me was that when I was 14 years old, my mother died. And if you can imagine, Kitty, that, you know, in England, an Italian family, 6 boys, no mother, the house foundation is gone, the house collapses. And I saw my father cry for the first time. Everybody was moping around. It was like having a vice around my heart that was squeezing it, and I didn't know how to undo it. What happened, though, in that was that we all started talking together, and we started to express our feelings, and we started to, rather than perceive what my father was feeling or what my brother was feeling, we were talking, and it created a bond and a unity. Now, the grieving wasn't going away, but suddenly, instead of just carrying it on my own, I felt that all of us were carrying it, so it became a little lighter. And that type of idea is brought into our business. If I can give you an example, that if I was to take an action, but before I take that action, I explain to you why I'm doing that. I've enrolled in you why I'm doing it. Now, there's no perception for you to think one way or another. You know why. So you enroll in it, and it becomes a lot easier for us to work together towards that. And I think that that was the biggest lesson I learned there.
Such a basic business philosophy, and yet I feel so many times we miss that. Salon owners miss that. Stylists miss that opportunity to communicate what they're feeling, to enroll people into it. Such a great point that you're making in building any business.
It creates a team, you know, and this is part of the strength. But a lot of people think they're communicating because they're spending a lot of time together and saying hi and working next to each other, or have a chair next to each other and working together and talking to their clients and so on. But the reality of it is, unless you sit down and you have a double-way communication and you express what you're doing and you give the logic, you're not really communicating. And once you start to understand that and you enroll that, then it becomes a foundation of what you believe in, you know. And this is the type of things that make our foundation as a company. Obviously, we believe in education and quality and consistent training, but it has to have bigger, more foundation than just learning how to do a haircut, because we're in a people's business. And the more you understand people, the more you understand how you treat people, the more you can bring them together. And I think that probably, if I was to say one of the things that I've achieved or I've been able to do better than anything, is bringing people together, bringing the best out of people and communicating with them to merge them into the qualities that we need to go ahead.
When I was speaking to you on the phone, I asked you what your passion was, and I was really expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but your answer wasn't what I was expecting. And your passion, you said, was people, and your pride was people. And again, such a great lesson. Can you expound on that for just a little bit?
Well, I think that I recognize that there's no I in team, and I also recognize my limitations. And possibly I've had the good fortune of working with 3 wonderful brothers that were always being supported, and everyone had a different talent, and we supported one another. And then I had another great fortune of working with 2 other young men that we weren't blood related, but we were very ideas related, James Morrison and Paul Joseph. And all the talents that I didn't have, either James had or Paul had or Anthony had. And believing in that's the passion, is to being able to recognize people's talent and put them together to create this wonderful team.
And that's that communication again, isn't it?
Yes. It's you have to communicate very genuinely. You know, you mustn't be afraid of hiding anything. I think it's like being truthful is like going home and being able to sleep. You know, you're free. If you want to be something that you're not, eventually it crumbles and it erodes on you. But if you're kind of a genuine person and you work genuinely, I think it just helps to catapult you to wherever you want to be.
I think that's important that people know that they look at someone like yourself and the great company that you lead, and they were just lucky, or they just came over because they had an English accent, or they were Italian. You know, everybody's got the reason why they were successful, yet you didn't always start off successful. Can you share a little of that? Do you mind?
Yes, not at all, not at all. I think, there was a huge lesson that I learned in that too, actually. You know, I came to America first time after we did the tour with Sebastian, gone back, and everybody was excited, my brothers and I. We saved up a lot of money to what it was to us at the time, and I was chosen to come over and try. But I came over and met some really wonderful people that cheated me out of all my money, and I had to go back.
Oh, no.
So I went back to London, and my brothers were very understanding, Kitty. They were really nice and said, well, you know, it could happen to you. It's a great big different continent. You know, you're on your own. Don't worry, we'll save up some more money and you can go again, have another go, because the passion was there. Mm. So we did, and I came back again, and this time I felt I was much more ready and I was more excited than I was before, and I met some more wonderful people who cheated me out of my other money. And I had to go back. So this was the second attempt that I had to go back. When I went back to London this time, there was kind of a different atmosphere with my brothers. You know, they were very understanding, but, you know, maybe you should just cut hair and forget these ideas. And, you know, in fact, don't give us any ideas. But the passion was so strong in me that, you know, I'd fallen in love with America. So I decided to sell my house, sell my car, and sell all my possessions, and use my own money to come over here. Wow. And what had happened this time, I was selling everything, and I made a commitment to myself that if it wasn't going to work, I was going to go and pump gas. I didn't want to be humiliated by going back and not
There was no going back.
There wasn't any go back. There wasn't any going back. And
well, courage.
The fact of it is that I really began to understand when we say the word commitment, you know, what does that mean exactly? To be committed to something. You know, a lot of people, you say, well, I'm committed to this, and what do they really mean? How do they really interpret that? And when going back and seeing this and validating what actually had happened to me, that I had nothing to go back to. Suddenly, something great happened, that whatever obstacles that was coming my way, rather than me thinking, why should I face this? I'll go back. I had to face it. And it created more self-confidence for myself. It created more self-esteem. And each obstacle that I overcame, I think it made us better and better and better. And I think that was a true part of some of the success today. Understanding that what it really is to be committed. Now, if you look at all the things that start to happen, you start believing in yourself, you start to understand communication, believing in people, and then being committed to that, then, you know, the rest was easy, because all I had to do was do hairdressing, which I love to do, share it, which I love to do, enroll people in it, and believing in education the way I would, and having the great fortune of having somebody like Anthony, who's my younger brother. He's totally an inspiration, you know. I mean, I can't stop praising him, because when we were doing shows, he was 17, and he would see something and have the ability to dissect it and reproduce it and make it work. It was like seeing poetry in motion with hair. I don't think I could have created anything on my own, really. You know, the inspiration of Anthony is great, but still you need a team, and he needs a team, you know, and to be able to elevate that so that the message from the very top does not get diluted. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to have people that believe and are as enthusiastic and energetic and loyal to the causes or the goal or the vision as you are.
Bruno, define the word culture. I know that sounds like a real basic term, but I don't believe that this has really been touched on in any of the other interviews that we've done. And I think it's such an important part to just elaborate a little bit more for our listeners.
We could use the word culture, or you could use the word philosophy, but actually what it really means is what you stand for. What do you believe in? How do you run your home? What do you do? What are your ethics? What's your integrity? And that's what it's all about. It's what you actually stand for. I believe in quality education. I believe in people. I believe that there should be a system. I believe that this is what I believe, but this is what I really stand for.
Someone I called that knows you said, Bruno has an eye for human potential. What a nice compliment that is, that you really know how to build a team. Can that be developed to bring out the best in people?
I think it can be developed without a doubt. Sometimes I've also been probably looked at as being a little soft because I believe in people too much. But I believe that there's good in everybody, and probably it's given me the freedom of not being protective against myself or being defensive. So it's given me a little bit more of a open look or spectrum when I'm looking at somebody to see what the great qualities are, because I'm not being defensive and thinking that they're going to hurt me back, you know. So the approach of that openness, I think, has probably helped me do that. And also, it's like having had the experiences of working with Anthony and seeing that somebody so talented has no ego whatsoever. It's like, it's an incredible thing. It's given me a lot of faith in talent, you know, and looking at people and going out and giving them an opportunity to do something, or giving them an opportunity to participate. And if they make a mistake, instead of criticizing them or knocking them down, say, well, maybe if you did this or you did that, you would come out. Positively encouraging people and all these things together, that's the way I look at it. And it's not just one thing saying, well, I just look at and I can recognize it just like that. It doesn't work like that. But however, something happens inside of me, I don't know exactly what it is, that probably this team thing again, that I believe that all of us can't do everything. So there's always somebody that can do something better than I can, and I can do something better than they can, and they all fit into this jigsaw puzzle.
Talk about not competing with other people and just focusing on your own goal. What I have in front of me is a beautiful, beautiful book. What a history, called Classic Cuts by Tony and Guy. This is beautiful. Tell me how this came about.
What we wanted to do, we have our own training program. We teach our people basic programs, intermediate and advanced. We wanted to elevate the basic program into a way that we would create a wonderful arsenal of haircuts that would, once somebody's learned these haircuts, you can have a wonderful foundation, but not what it used to be yesterday, what it is today. You know, if we talk about a one-length haircut, and you can do a one-length haircut, but sometimes, somehow, they seem to always be, when you talk about basics and basic fundamentals, that they belong in the past, or it's something that you should do quickly and then move on to more exciting things. What we did, we bought this basic classic book, and by amalgamating Anthony's skills, creating our artistic team from Europe, working with our artistic team from London, amalgamating them together so that it all came together and mashed together to create this from the 20th century into the 21st century. And this is what I think that this book's achieved. And if you look at the numerous haircuts, I mean, if somebody went through and learned those, I can guarantee you there's no client that can sit in your chair that you won't have the confidence to be able to do. I went to a party once, and there was lots of accountants and lawyers, and every time I'd be asked, well, what do you do? I'm a hairdresser. You know, kind of whisper it under my breath. But then I realized that, you know, like that is because sometimes the perception that our industry has is that it has a perception maybe that we're a little bit flaky, you know. And what we wanted to do was to see what we could contribute to help upgrade it, you know. And if other wonderful hairdressers like Trevor Sorby, Irving Rusk, and Sam Bacard, and all of us contributing towards that, I think we can make a difference, and we can elevate our industry to more professional, especially when you consider that we hire accountants, we hire lawyers, and we're probably in the forefront more than what they are. But this stigma about our industry being a little flaky is still there. And I think with this book and the videotape series that we have, and the education, why we keep doing it, we want to be able to share with our colleagues the best possible and the simplest method of doing hairdressing, that they become more qualified, they have better opportunity, and they understand that this is a professional profession. One of the things that's happened in Dallas, Kitty, which is really good, is that Tony and Guy, we have now 15 locations, 17 actually, between Dallas and Houston, is no longer just as a hairdressing salon. We're looked at as a very prosperous company. In fact, so much so that one of the bankers invited Guy to sit on his board. So if we can accomplish with our methods, with our culture, that we establish an organization which then becomes respected in the community, then we're winning. Now, if we can then share that and other people start doing it in other states and so on, you can see how it can elevate itself.
Masters was started with the dream and the goal of elevating and exciting young, new, passionate hairdressers. Now, when I say young, I'm not talking about their age as such as their time in the industry. What would be your advice for these hairdressers that are listening, that are saying, okay, get me excited about this industry, give me a reason to stay in here?
Well, look at what can be achieved by it. We've traveled the world within the industry, like almost like pop stars being on stage. You can get up in the morning and do hair, and you can have friends sitting in there, and you're listening to music, and you're creating a art form. And it's a wonderful way of being able to express yourself artistically. You are an entrepreneur as far as, even though you're working for a company, you're still, with the structure the way it is and the commissions the way they are, it's how much work you want to put in, that's how much money you can earn. It has so many different values. Hairdressing for me is a fulfillment of an artistic satisfaction as well as give you monetary gratification. And it is a tremendous vehicle to be able to achieve whatever you want to achieve, especially if you have that passion and that enthusiasm, that energy to be able to want to express your art form. So the advice I can give to young hairdressers is learn as much as you can. You know, my father was in his 60s and he never stopped educating himself. Don't ever be afraid of education or educating yourself. Get self-confident. The more confident you become, the better a hairdresser you become. And I think education gives you that confidence. And once you have that confidence, there's nothing that you can't do. You can charge $60 or $150 because about your ability. Educate yourself with shows, seminars. Be a little aggressive to make sure that you can introduce through manufacturers. Have the experience of traveling and broaden your horizon through that. Body look good and feel good is tremendous. We have so much power in our hands because with our hands we can make somebody look good. With our communication we can make them feel good. And it's gratification there. You see something that you just done there and you get that gratification. It's terrific. And if they can look at all these things and work on those things and then be patient, because Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, some people that don't know Tony and Guy very well look at the way they're in a year or 2 years. It's taken us 30 years to achieve some of the goals that we have. And I'm not saying that it's going to take everybody 30 years, but be patient and be consistent with what your word count for something. Don't say anything unless you're going to really follow through. It's almost better not to say anything than to say something.
The one common thread I'm hearing that's going all the way through this is everything that you've done, everything that you've given advice on, helps build self-confidence.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such an important role that I hear you saying to people.
Well, I think it's very important. And one of the things that we do when our assistants first start coming to work with us, we have not only training on how to cut hair, but goal setting. The reason we do that, if you were to come and work for us and you just left school and you've just been at school and they've told you, well, you leave and then you can go and work and you can earn this and that, and suddenly you come to us and I'm asking you to maybe shampoo and retrain you and sweep up and stuff, it becomes a little hard. But if you have a goal and a vision, and if I teach you the importance of goal and vision, and you want to be like a Paul Joseph or like a James Morrison or an Anthony, then that obstacle of shampooing or it's just a little price to pay for what you really want to obtain. What that does for you is that I'm setting goals, and each time a goal is set, each time that you achieve it, you become more self-confident. So as you get tested out, you become more confident. As you look at where you want to go and you've got the next hurdle to, you become more self-confident. We have people that within our organization that make wonderful money, that have great self-confidence, and have value for life. And I think that that's part of that confident building.
That was a wonderful term you just said, value for life.
Yes.
What would be the message you want to share? I mean, you've shared so many here. What is the message?
The message to me is that you have to have balance of life, you know, and I mean, I could be regarded as a workaholic, but I have a wonderful family, beautiful wife, beautiful children, and it is just the same. I have to plan for them as what I plan for my business, because that is just as valuable as what it is to do the business. You know, the inspiration of being able to spend time with my son Bruno or Ray or Francesca, a daughter, or spending time with Kyra is as valuable to me as working with my colleagues at work. And I make sure that all the people that work with us understand that. I don't want them to be workaholics without balancing it. You know, you've got to balance it. You've got to be able to balance personal life as well as working life. Once you do that, suddenly something great happens. You can get up in the morning and you feel good about what you're doing. And you're not looking for excuses and different things why you're not happy, because you've got a balanced life. It's actually more fulfilling than just obtaining a goal that gives you monetary rewards. It's being satisfied personally, satisfied at work. And that's what I'm referring to, the values.
Do you know, from watching your company from afar and admiring everything I've always seen and held in respect, this opportunity to see behind the scenes and how this company was built and developed is so refreshing, and it's so wonderful that you would share this with our listening audience. And I know I'm a better hairdresser right now, sitting here 30 minutes later than I was when I walked in this room because of you. And I know this industry is so much better because of you and your brothers and your family and your company.
Thank you. I'd just like to make one more statement. I have tremendous admiration for some of the masters that I've heard. In fact, tremendous admiration and very motivating. And, you know, the question recently was asked me, who do you look as a role model and who's your mentor? And, you know, one of my role models has always been my younger brother, because I believe that he's got so much talent and he's so free with sharing it and no ego, that it's created so much humbleness that I wanted all the company to be like that. And then I look at, you know, I hear people like Vidal Sassoon, Trevor, Irvin, and admired Jean-Louis David. And these are all admiration, but my real role models and my real people are people that are working with me. Sometimes, you know, you hear wonderful stories about the things that they do. My staff, my colleagues are truly my role models, because we're touching each other all the time. And being part of that and having the respect from these people and respecting them back is just a wonderful fulfillment, not just a fulfillment from afar, but close, which I think gives us the key for the foundation that we have.
On behalf of Wynn Claybaugh, my partner, myself, Kitty Victor, and all of our listeners, thank you, Bruno Mascalo.
Thank you very much, Kitty.